The metal for our frame repair arrived on a pallet, and I had written up a set of specifications which they bent and cut the steel for me. And I got a piece of aluminum that was 25 feet long corner bracket that I really only needed a portion of to use, but fortunately the added pieces allowed me to make mistakes without being too stressed about it. Anyway, so we loaded up our stuff and got started. The first thing we began with was the aluminum and shaping the two pieces that are the brackets that rivet to the rear luggage bay compartment. And you can see that I used a Harbor Freight tubing bender that worked pretty well for the job, actually. I had to do a little modifications here. We clamped the piece together so try to keep it from crimping on one side. And we went through a few iterations, and I tried 3 different bends, 3 different ways to do that. This was one of them. As you can see, it has a bit of a buckle in the middle there that I wasn't happy about. And in the end, what we wound up doing after our 3 tries was to cut the piece exactly the way the other one was, at 1.5 inches by 3 inches, and trim it the way it was and just bend it, and it seemed to bend more easily. Plus, we'd had a little bit of practice in our tubing bender to try to figure out what worked and what didn't work, and in the end we came up with a piece that's almost exactly what we had to begin with. These are 3 of the attempts that we made, and you can see how we tried different approaches to making that bend without having a crimp in it. Here's our final piece that you can see now that is almost exactly what we started out with, without the decay that we had from the original piece. This is our frame rail. This is the inner frame rail mounted up for sizing and marking for drilling. And this is the outer frame rail mounted or blocked up there with blocks, as you can see. We clamped them together and we did the best job we could measuring, but darn, those holes are hard to drill. It's really a tough project. So we went about fabricating, cutting things, making little pieces for brackets and whatnot. And in the end, it'll all be welded or brazed together, except for the 5 gussets in the middle that you see in this picture, and they'll be bolted. This is a notch out for our shock that is adjacent to the shock tower. As you can see, there's the shock fitted in. I cut it smaller than the one that was in the original. I hope that's not going to be a problem. And there it is, kind of mounted in a dry fit to see how things are going. Each step we try to get one more piece figured out, where the drill hole goes or whatever happens, and it's in and out of the bus probably a good couple of dozen times for each of the fittings and next steps. And you have to make sure you do the steps in the right order or something's going to run amok. Little ends are being welded on here that are tabs for the brackets on the bulkhead. This is our joust bumper bracket that didn't do so good. I got it, it was not made correctly, and we tried to open it up and that didn't work, and then they opened it up and it was cocked, so I tried straightening it out. Under the bumper of the car wasn't so good. Turns out the best way to do this was beating it with a sledgehammer, and we got it pretty darn close. I think it was the 1/16 of an inch, on all my flat surfaces. In the end, these are the pieces lined up that we needed to use, the old and the new. As you can see, that's an assortment of stuff. It was a total of 218 holes drilled, 30 pieces of steel, and 12 welds and brazes that were needed to put the frame together to make it somewhat like the original frame.